All right, welcome back to Cosmic Disclosure. I'm your host, David Wilcock. We've got Corey Goode here, the Insider's Insider. And we have as our special guest, mythologist, art historian, William Henry. And the reason why I really like what William Henry has done is, first of all, he's been around as long as I have. He's a real veteran in this field. But more importantly, he's talking about ascension from a perspective of bringing in practical data. There's a lot of people who've been around a long time. They talk about this stuff, but it's, oh, I'm channeling this, that, or the other. There's no real reference point, no way to prove that what they're saying is true. But William, you're bringing in hard data. You've got things we can look at, things that clearly have a history behind them.
Yeah.
And you were telling us about this painting of Jesus here. Let's get into that again. These stars that we're seeing, those stars represent what?
Well, it represents the cosmos. And when we're looking at Jesus in a blue sphere, which is what he's in, filled with stars, I read that Stargate from our contemporary perspective. And you know, when you research the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were the books of the Essenes, it's remarkable, and even in the Bible too, it's remarkable how many times they reference gateways, portals. So they're clearly in stairways to heaven. So this is not too far out of an idea. It's actually in these texts that they are describing beings coming and going from the celestial realms via stargates.
With the terms they had.
With the terms they had then, right. We can say wormhole today. We can, we can talk about Calabi spheres. We can use scientific terms if we want, but hey, let's just keep it simple, okay? Because people now, thanks to movies like Stargate, Contact, Interstellar, we have the physics behind it, and now we have the visuals. We have a consciousness that says, okay, we've caught up with these super advanced beings that travel the cosmos in stargates, wormholes, or blue spheres. This is one way to do it.
Now, Corey, you've said that you feel that the Stargate itself, the blue sphere itself, is alive.
Yes, well, the blue sphere is one of the 5 beings in the Sphere Being Alliance.
Okay.
So it is a higher density being. It's an actual being.
Yeah, right. I would go along with that.
So this is like a symbiosis then between the person in the being and then the being itself as the sphere.
And both the Inner Earth and the Blue Avians have explained that they are in a symbiotic relationship with humanity and our co-creative consciousness and our mass consciousness.
Well, what's so bizarre about this is anybody who's been watching Wisdom Teachings knows I did a whole long sequence on Wilhelm Reich and his idea that the precursor for biological life, I've always been talking about life is a quantum field effect. Life precipitates out of the quantum vacuum. Well, Reich actually looked at life that was formed that turns into cells where they hadn't existed, and in its primordial form it shows up as a blue sphere, in this case on a microscopic level. But it just manifests. And then the blue sphere coalesces the water or the material around itself and forms life where none had existed.
Incredible.
I hadn't heard that.
So this is like getting us a through line now between macro, because you're saying the largest of these blue spheres in the solar system are how big?
The largest of them contains, our solar system is contained by one of them.
Oh, the outer barrier is
one
a
of them.
sphere.
Yes.
Wow, okay.
Well, think about the she powers, right? The Shedi powers, which are the 8 great powers, instant materialization of wishes, invisibility, levitation, and the ability to make yourself as big as you want or as small as you want.
Right.
I mean, these would be part of the consciousness powers of these beings. Right?
Co-creative manifestation.
Yeah.
The whole point, too, in terms of scaling, when we're dealing with a holographic universe, in the hologram, in a fractal, no matter how much you zoom in on the fractal, you keep seeing the same pattern.
Right. And I love that word scale in this context. Jacob scaled the ladder to heaven. So he ascended, right? But scale is a musical term. So he raised his vibration.
Yeah, I was about to go there.
Right?
Yeah.
Goes up to the heavenly realms, then scales back down.
Goes up the octaves
Right.
and down.
Right.
Well, William, what's the teaching? Because you obviously are a much greater Bible expert than I am, and these religious texts in general. Are we looking at is the original fall how life is created out of this divine perfection? And do we have to resuscitate from that fall?
Yeah, that's the esoteric view of it. The Jewish mystical view was that Adam and Eve were originally light beings. And then when we're evicted from Eden, remember the biblical story, book of Genesis, Eve eats the apple of wisdom, and we're evicted from Eden. Yahweh, the Old Testament God, does two things. He makes a gate at the east of Eden, which we exit through, places cherubim on either side of the gate. And then the thing most people forget about is he made for humanity coats of skin. The traditional view is that these are animal skins that are covering the body.
Right.
The esoteric view
because
is...
they were naked.
Right. Yeah. But the esoteric view is the coats of skin are these skins that we wear, are human skin. Because originally we were light beings, luminous, radiant, perfect beings. That's the term they use. They were perfect.
That's in that movie Noah with Russell Crowe.
Yes, it is. Yeah, they drop a line on that.
The people in Eden are light beings first.
Yes, exactly. That's such a key part of this as well, because then Jesus is then the second Adam, whose part of his mission is to show us how to reclaim our original light body form and ascend, right? He's going to show us the way to do this.
To get out of here.
To get out of here. And I've got an image for you, Corey. Look at this. Think about this one. This is Ravenna, Italy, 5th century, right?
And he's not in a wading pool. Right.
I mean, they call us a cloud, but who's ever seen a cloud that looks like a blue sphere, right?
Right.
I mean, what are we looking at here? The Earth. You can make an argument this is the Earth that he's on, but no. Going back to the Egyptian images we looked at in the last episode, they're indicating that this is a sphere of consciousness. In the very least, it's also a transportation vehicle as well.
Sphere of consciousness is an interesting way to put it.
Corey, did these beings say that they're just doing this for us here, the sphere beings, or are they kind of like a galactic or even intergalactic?
This is occurring in this local star cluster of 50 or so stars.
Okay.
That they are somehow karmically tied to, or that there's some sort of not only symbiotic relationship, but there is some sort of attachment that we need to ascend so they can ascend and return to source, basically.
I've come across that in my work as well with the Tibetan rainbow body tradition, because the Tibetans teach that this resurrection or ascension teaching, the rainbow body, is taught in 13 star systems, including our own. And you've got beings coming and going from these various star systems, probably through a system of wormholes, right? So if you think about it, Earth then, maybe we're a colony in a federation, I hate to use the Star Trek term, but a federation of star systems where this teaching is taught. So the question then is, maybe you can answer this, Corey, is are we the strongest link in this chain, or maybe we're the weakest one?
Apparently.
What if it's us, that has to lead the way?
Well, we do have to lead the way. The whole message is that they're not here to save us. They're not savior beings. They're here to give us a message, and we're to take the message and make the changes and save ourselves. Yeah.
Incredible. I mean, it's incredible. But to think that we're linked to 13 star systems, that just goes like, and you're saying it's 50, it's more than 50?
Right. The local star cluster is around 50 or so.
Well, William, I'm just really curious where the references for those 13 star systems, where did you see
interesting.
that?
Yeah. You know, I was at a conference in California, and a couple came up to me, and they told me that they both had PhDs from the Harvard Divinity School. They specialized in the rainbow body teaching.
Wow.
And told me that essentially what this means is that they believe that the human body is designed to be spun into a vortex of energy that dissolves into 5-colored rainbow light, leaving behind hair, toe, and fingernails, which have no nerves to be transmuted. And what they said to me is that they worked with the Dalai Lama, they translated Tibetan texts. This is their expertise. And they always wanted to know that the Tibetans themselves, this is part of their secret teaching, said that once you attain the rainbow body, you can travel to these other 13 star systems.
Oh, wow.
And they always wanted to know, well, how do they get there? And then they said they were watching one of my presentations on the ancient Egyptian arcs of the millions of years, like we looked at, where I identified them as wormholes. They said they got their answer, that once you attain the rainbow body, your body itself becomes the Stargate. It becomes the wormhole, and then you can travel to these other star systems. But let's just think about this just for a moment. If you go into myth and sacred tradition around the world, you can develop a pretty ready list. You're talking Orion, Sirius, Pleiades, Ursa Major. I've just named 5, but the Tibetans are saying there's 8 more, and I'm sure there are more than 13. It's
Right.
got to be up. I mean,
And some of these are star systems with many stars in them.
Right.
Like the Pleiades.
Right. So these are all familiar star systems that we can go out and look into the night sky and point out Sirius or Ursa Major. And,
Alpha Centauri.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. But now the real message here is we're connected to these star systems, even while we're in our earthly form, and we can call them in. But I love your message, and I agree with it. They need us, just like we need them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So William, this is, where are we looking here? Is this inside a temple or something?
Yeah, actually, this is in Ravenna, Italy.
Okay.
In a church in Ravenna, Italy, San Vitale, actually. And we see Jesus again on the blue sphere.
Is that gold leaf?
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, mosaics.
Oh,
and
wow.
you've got the angels on either side indicating, okay, these are celestial beings that we're dealing with, and they're kind of escorting him or providing a power source for him. And I really like to use the word upgrade, too, because in the Awakened Soul, my show here on Gaia, I did an episode about the hero's journey, but from the soul's perspective, that the whole purpose of our incarnation here on Earth is to get that upgrade.
Do you think Jesus is holding his crown of thorns here? Or what is in his hand exactly?
That is a crown. It's also a ring that he's holding. And,
Okay.
and when you trace that symbol of the cosmic ring, you'll see that in Zoroastrianism as well.
Oh.
You'll see it in Sumerian depictions where the god is holding a ring. And they call that, the title for this is, get this, the Ring of Cosmic Sovereignty. I want one. Can't get it at Best Buy right now, but maybe soon, right? The Ring of Cosmic Sovereignty. What that means is he can go BC do anything he wants. He's got the ring or vibration that he's a fully sovereign being, and he's a cosmic being.
It's almost like a seal
Exactly.
of
Exactly.
a kingship or royalty.
Right.
Or some sort of title.
Exactly. But here's the key to this art. What they intend for you to see when you're looking at an image like this is, again, not a static piece of art, but an invitation. They believe that the vibration of the blue sphere and the Ring of Cosmic Sovereignty is transmittable through the art. How can that be? Well, you're dealing with gurus here. You're dealing with super advanced avatars that can even manifest through a piece of art and transmit that vibration to you. And this is why the church is like, okay, you know, if people just need a piece of art to get there, what do they need me for? We don't need a church. We don't need all the books. We don't need the hierarchy of priests. All the person needs to do is to open their heart and connect with this mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and they can begin to raise their own vibration.
So what do we got next here?
Let's see. Oh, here's an angel on a blue sphere.
Oh.
So here's a celestial being in the cosmos.
It looks like he's surrounded by them.
Right, exactly.
And back then, they did not believe the Earth was a globe, correct?
No, right, exactly.
So
They-
this
they
is
have
like
that
a
knowledge.
matrix of spheres coming in.
Yeah, you can read this
Which
almost
is-
as interconnecting or link, perhaps, of star systems.
It could be
even.
spirals.
Yeah.
Those
Right, absolutely.
inside
they're-
the spheres.
But Corey, you've also said that we've had a whole bunch of these spheres come into our solar system recently.
Yeah, hundreds and thousands.
Wow. Now
Ah,
we're,
there it is.
yeah,
I mean,
there
look.
it is right there.
Boom.
Yeah. So this is a piece of art. This is a transfiguration icon. This is an event in the Bible right after Jesus is baptized. He gets these newfound powers. First thing he's going to do is go demonstrate to a few disciples his capabilities. And he takes them up to the top of a mountain and reveals himself as a being of light. He transfigures, which means he changes his form from flesh and blood into a light body form. And the Bible...
But he comes out of the tomb.
This is
And people don't
before that.
recognize
No,
him.
this is before
Oh, okay.
that. This is early on. This is before the crucifixion
Oh,
and
okay.
resurrection.
Okay.
It's very early on. And so he demonstrates, hey guys, here's a preview of what's going to come
Okay.
later on. I'm going to change my form so you can show that you all have this capability.
Right.
And in the descriptions, the disciples say, okay, this cloud opened up behind him. And that's what your traditional view is, that this blue sphere behind him, filled with radiant light, and the light coming off his body is actually a cloud.
Well, you know, people that have flown through, like, the Bermuda Triangle, they've reported seeing blue mists.
Yeah, really important bit of imagery here, because I think when the portal opens, some kind of a mist emerges from it. That's why they think of it as a cloud, because they probably don't have a conception of a stargate or a wormhole.
Sure.
Right? And so what also happens here, you see the two figures on either side, that's Moses and Elijah, who suddenly manifested as if out of thin air. So they too must be these ascended beings that have the capability of phasing in and out if they choose to. They're probably in blue spheres themselves. So really important imagery. And again, the teaching that goes with this is that this is how they transmitted the vibration of the transfiguration, is through this art, these icons. They called them sacred portals or sacred mirrors. That's their term for these icons like this.
It's so amazing to me that you've been looking into this since 2002.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know what I'm thinking of too is the actual physics of this. Dr. John Searle developed the Searle levity disk, where he has these rotating rings, and you create anti-gravity. And that was then replicated by two Russian scientists, Roshin and Goode. They actually got levitation. And what they noticed is once they set up the anti-gravity field, that there was these, what they called domain walls, these bubbles. And you could actually take a thermostat, a thermometer, and measure very distinct changes in temperature. It would get colder as you get towards the middle in very discrete walls, just like you see here. It's spheres within spheres, evenly separated from each other.
Right.
So this is actually a physics.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is like what we're actually, these energy fields, there's a scientific precedent for them manifesting that way.
I think there's a super high energy physics that accompanies images like this. You're absolutely right on it. And it ultimately leads you to the blue spheres as a way of being transported through the cosmos. Because again, this is an invitation to join him, to raise your vibration, to change your form. Because as the Bible says, flesh and blood can't inherit the kingdom of heaven. So it's saying we're going to go in a different form. And the blue sphere is the method that is the way you're going to go.
And that scares some people. They think you shed your skin, you die.
Right.
You know, you've got to go through some sort of, you know, painful death process.
Right.
And
right.
That part, you know, scares people.
Yeah, and that's why the message of the service, the love, and forgiveness is so important, because this is how we raise our vibration and begin to realize, okay, I can safely leave behind this form and enter my next level of evolution. Yeah.
Well, let's have another one. Let's see what we got here.
Another transfiguration.
It's the same thing, yeah.
It's the same thing, but look what he's got in his hand again.
Different artist, same time frame? Or?
Same time frame, different artist. But he's got that stick in his hand, just like we saw in the ancient Egyptian image in the previous episode. I call it the resurrection stick. It's the stick that opens the gates of heaven or hell. So we're talking about either an actual object or technology or a symbol for a level of consciousness that these beings possessed. They can come and go, phase in and out.
It looks like an antenna, or something that would send or receive vibration.
Right, exactly. And so we're talking about scaling and raising our vibration once again, and he's saying, okay, here's the tool that you need.
Well, and one of the things, Corey, you probably can back me up on this. One of my insiders is a guy who worked with extraterrestrials and reverse engineered 13 different UFOs and came up with 8 different methods of anti-gravity. And one of the things he kept saying to me over and over again, he said, David, you got to remember this. The more technology you have, the less technology you need.
Love it.
You get an all-in-one device. And that's kind of like I guess the equivalent for you would be like the smart glass pads, right? Or
more so the stone tablets that we were finding that we didn't know what were. That ended up being
in the inner earth.
Right. That ended up being technology, and non-terrestrials wanted us to trade it for trinkets.
Wow.
And we stopped trading once we figured out it was a technology.
Interesting. Wow. Reminds me of the May tablets of the ancient Sumerian stories. The Anunnaki are trading these May tablets, the tablets of destiny. They're stones. They're described as stones. Some of them contain the secrets of ascension, secrets of civilization.
So that's probably that's probably the same thing.
Yeah.
Because you said these tablets, the big thing is stasis.
Well, not exactly the tablets, but the stasis. It's this similar technology.
They can alter the flow of time. They can create a time bubble.
Right.
Right.
You know, and a tie-in too to that is Moses had originally had the blue sapphire stones He made 2 trips up Mount Sinai, remember? The first trip he goes up and he's given all the Enlightenment teachings on blue sapphire stones. He comes down Mount Sinai, sees the Israelites worshiping the golden calf, and he smashes the blue sapphire stones. And all the initiates are going, oh, there they go. And then he goes back up Sinai again and comes back down with the 10 Commandments, the penal code. So those blue sapphire stones are super important, and one of the legends is that staff that Moses used to part the Red Sea was also made of blue sapphire. And it was so heavy, it took many people to be able to lift this thing. So it may not be physically heavy, but it's indicating, okay, this is advanced consciousness technology you're dealing with. Humans can't lift this stone. And it's kind of...
We can't wield it.
We can't wield it, exactly.
Cannot wield the power
we
yet.
can't wield this power yet. And so they took away those blue stones, and I wonder if that's what you're describing, because that sapphire blue description, why are they blue sapphire unless it relates to the blue spheres?
Well, just on an exoteric level, it's really bizarre that you have these Egyptian paintings where you have Horus or Osiris with this staff,
Right.
and then the same kind of thing around him. And now you're seeing Jesus portrayed with the same.
Exactly.
Same
It's
mystery
not,
school people.
Yeah, I mean, people would look at that and argue that's the cross. But no, it's not the cross, because the cross he's crucified in would be much larger.
Right.
You know, so this is something
And it has
else.
the T at the bottom, too, which is...
Yeah. So this is something else that he's carrying that's a symbol for a capability or a level of consciousness or something along those lines. And it's identical to what we saw in Egypt as well.
Well, let's have another one here.
Let's see what we've got here. Okay, so this is another ascension image, a detail of it, where he's wearing this bright white garment, indicating he's a light being. He's got the illuminated halo around his head as well. And he's in the blue sphere again, ascending through this
And
this
what's
sphere.
the time frame here?
We're still, this is 6th century A.D.
6th century.
Yep, 6th century, 7th century A.D.
So by this point in 6th century, you're only dealing with a relatively small number of generations since these events actually took place.
Right.
So there could be oral traditions, there could be hidden documents
Right.
that would have been more readily available back then.
And there might have been more images as well. I mean, then we enter this age of, they call it iconoclasm, where where Islam comes along in the 6th century, and they declare these images this is idol worship.
Yeah.
Right, this is heresy. So they destroyed a lot of this, and there's no telling what we've lost in terms of this, of imagery and other prompts that would really give us more clues about this ascension
Same thing
technology.
the Spaniards did when they came to South America.
Exactly, exactly. So what a loss. I mean, huge loss for us.
Right.
But I think we're reclaiming it today, and we have enough examples to where we can now start to piece it together.
Well, I can't help but notice that there's wing-like images in the red there. Is that part of what you're wanting us to see?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So those are going to be those angelic beings that are symbolic of the heavenly power, celestial powers, and power of flight.
Like the seraphim, cherubim.
Like the seraphim. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
Very cool. Very cool. This is one that is very provocative. This is Hildegard of Bingen's Man in Sapphire Blue, right? And she describes an experience where this man in sapphire blue manifested out of a blue flash, just like we were talking earlier. And she sees him. And now he's here beaming this energy to her. Anytime you see a person in art with their hands open like this, they're beaming energy to you. Call it Reiki, the Holy Spirit, whatever term you want. We are to mirror this image in sacred art. We are to put our hands up and connect.
And receive.
And receive, exactly, and establish a link, an energetic link. Because the idea, again, is we all want to raise our consciousness so that we can have this experience that you had, right?
Corey, is it possible that the blue avians could change the way they look to look more human to someone if they wanted to portray themselves that way?
Absolutely. I've never seen an example of that, but yes, absolutely. I mean, they're a higher density being that they're manifesting out of nothingness in front of me as blue avians. They could probably, appear as a human if they wanted, but I have not seen an example of that myself.
Well, and they ask you to read the law of one, and if they are sixth density, then in the law of one, they say that sixth density beings are actually only blue spheres. They don't have any form unless they want you to see a form. That's right in there. So here's
Blue
another.
spheres?
Yes. Yeah. So this could actually be one of the same sphere beings. And Hildegard von Bingen, of course, is really important because of many visionary prophecies that she had that foretold the coming of the ascension and the conditions that would appear on Earth during that process. Her prophecies are right up there with Nostradamus, Edgar Cayce.
Definitely.
All those guys.
Yeah, I've never, I mean, when was this?
German mystic, 15th century, 16th century.
Okay.
Yeah, she had a lot of prophecies that already have been proven accurate. Remote viewing the future, seeing the civilization we were going to have, and predicting ascension. And isn't it interesting? I didn't know this until you brought this up. This guy, actually, she said this guy visited her.
Yes,
and this is her
exactly.
illustration of that.
Yes, this is her visualization
And he's
of
coming
this
in a
experience.
sphere, a blue sphere.
He's coming in a blue sphere
That's
composed
crazy,
of
man.
concentric rings, right? Right. It's the same energetic experience. And he's inviting her to come join me, come have this
When I
experience.
first started doing readings and I got in touch with these beings that were the blue sphere beings, we were listening to Hildegard von Bingen Gregorian chant music all the time. And when you play that stuff, the sacredness, it's like it's a portal. The music is a portal.
Right, it is. It establishes that sacred space. That
Music
says,
changes your vibration.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally, yeah.
I had no idea that she was visited by an angelic being like this. That's amazing.
Yeah, the man in sapphire blue. So she's emphasizing that he is in this blue sphere and he is a blue sphere being.
And he had blue skin.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so William, let's have one more because we're just about out of time. But let's just take one more slide and see what we got here.
Okay, so we looked at the transfiguration where Jesus gives us initial demonstration. Here's what you're all going to be able to do. Drop your skin, become a light being, and open up this portal behind you. Then in the ascension, he actually ascends in this cloud. And that's the way that they describe it in the Bible, is he went up in this cloud. Right. And the key thing is, in the book of Acts, as they describe him going, suddenly two men dressed in white, who are very mysterious, sound like celestial beings or angels, appear and say, "Men of Galilee, why are you looking into the sky? As you see Jesus going, he's going to return exactly the same way he's just left." So he's coming and going in this ascension cloud.
I got to throw this in. This is too good. Peter Lemzurier, the guy that wrote Great Pyramid Decoded, has a whole section of the book where he explains that Galilee is a metaphor for our world right before it ascends, or as it's ascending.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's really
so
incredible.
men of Galilee.
Men of Galilee.
He will come back the way he left.
Men who are going to ascend.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so in Christian art, they got this idea, probably from Egypt, that this ascension cloud is actually a portal or a gateway. And it's blue.
Yes.
And so here he is on the arcing rainbow with the feet on the footstool in this blue sphere.
Clearly levitating.
Clearly levitating, going through the heavens in these concentric rings filled with light. If that's not a wormhole or a blue sphere that they're indicating here, I don't know what it is, right?
Right. I mean, yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have for. We want to thank you for watching. This is Cosmic Disclosure, and we'll see you next time.
I read that Stargate from our contemporary perspective. And you know, when you research the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were the books of the Essenes, it's remarkable, and even in the Bible too, it's remarkable how many times they reference gateways, portals. So they're clearly in stairways to heaven. So this is not too far out of an idea. It's actually in these texts that they are describing beings coming and going from the celestial realms via stargates.
With the terms they had.
With the terms they had then, right. We can say wormhole today, we can talk about Calabi spheres, we can use scientific terms if we want, but hey, let's just keep it simple, okay? Because people now, thanks to movies like Stargate, Contact, Interstellar, we have the physics behind it, and now we have the visuals, we have a consciousness that says, okay, we've caught up with these super advanced beings that travel the cosmos in stargates, wormholes, or blue spheres. This is one way to do it.
Now, Corey, you've said that you feel that All right, welcome back to Cosmic Disclosure. I'm your host, David Wilcock. We've got Corey Goode here, the Insider's Insider. And we have as our special guest, mythologist, art historian, William Henry. And the reason why I really like what William Henry has done is, first of all, he's been around as long as I have. He's a real veteran in this field. But more importantly, he's talking about ascension from a perspective of bringing in practical data. There's a lot of people who've been around a long time. They talk about this stuff, but it's, oh, I'm channeling this, that, or the other. There's no real reference point, no way to prove that what they're saying is true. But William, you're bringing in hard data. You've got things we can look at, things that clearly have a history behind them.
Yeah.
And you were telling us about this painting of Jesus here. Let's get into that again. These stars that we're seeing, those stars represent what?
Well, it represents the cosmos. And when we're looking at Jesus in a blue sphere, which is what he's in, filled with stars.
Well, Reich actually looked at life that was formed that turns into cells where they hadn't existed, and in its primordial form it shows up as a blue sphere, in this case on a microscopic level. But it just manifests. And then the blue sphere coalesces the water or the material around itself and forms life where none had existed.
Incredible.
I hadn't heard that.
So
Wow.
this is like getting us a through line now between macro, because you're saying the largest of these blue spheres in the
Right.
solar system are how big?
The largest of them contains, our solar system is contained by one of them.
Oh, the outer barrier is
one
a
of them.
sphere.
Yes.
Wow, okay.
Well, think about the she powers, right? The Shedi powers, which are the
Yeah.
8 great powers.
Yeah.
Instant materialization of wishes, invisibility, levitation, and the ability to make yourself as big as you want or as small as you want.
Right.
I mean, these would be part of the consciousness powers of these beings. Right?
The Stargate itself, the blue sphere itself, is alive.
Yes, well, the blue sphere is one of the 5 beings in the sphere being alliance.
Okay.
So it is a higher density being. It's an actual being.
Yeah. Right. I would go along with that.
So this is like a symbiosis then between the person in the being and then the being itself as the sphere.
And both the Inner Earth and the Blue Avians have explained that they are in a symbiotic relationship with humanity and our co-creative consciousness and our mass consciousness.
Well, what's so bizarre about this is anybody who's been watching wisdom teachings knows I did a whole long sequence on Wilhelm Reich and his idea that the precursor for biological life, I've always been talking about life is a quantum field effect. Life precipitates out of the quantum vacuum.